Ulster's bench really dug them out of a hole. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. We had a number of Ireland internationals returning to both squads this week. One player unfortunately not returning though was Andrew Conway, who has retired with immediate effect. It's real pity because the guy, before he got injured, seems to be at the height of his powers as well. He was, looked like he was probably the number 3 winger for Ireland and certainly pushing to be a starter as well. But, injury is a bit of a cruel thing, especially in rugby. Any kind of serious injury can be career ending, and unfortunately for Andrew, that's the way it is. But great servant for both Ireland and Munster, and he seemed like a very genuine guy as well. And really, just feel kind of sad for him. But wish him all the best for his future outside of rugby, and hopefully we see him involved in some way in the future. Onto the game then. Munster, they're starting pretty well. They're actually winning penalties in the scrum. McGrath is getting pinged a couple of times early on. Munster then opt for another scrum in the shadow of the posts, and this time O'Sullivan gets pinged on the Ulster loose head side. Another dominant scrum then from Munster. Coombs at the back there as they walk forward. He flicks the ball up to Casey, who darts over after a nice dummying and scores. Crowley converts this for 7-0. Perfect start for Munster. There's then a big cheer as Ulster win the first scrum penalty, with Ryan going down on the Munster side. Burns goes up the line, and it really is a great kick. Gets him right, close to the corner. They secure the line out and go to the maul about 10 metres out. Then have some good carries, get them even closer to the line. They spin it out to the backs, and Ethel McElroy comes on a really nice angle, but he's stopped just short of the line. Looked like he shipped a bad injury as well, and we have a long stoppage. Ulster do have a penalty for a dog bow being offside, but then Timo check shows that there's contact to the head from Shane Daly in that clash with McElroy. He looked to have fallen very awkwardly like that. Looked like he may have been knocked out or something, because he fell the wrong way, and Munster players straight away called for attention as well for him. So he goes off and not able to continue. Daly gets himself a yellow card out of that as well. Maybe a little bit harsh on that, but it was kind of on the borderline, I think. So he's off for 10 minutes. Doak then pops the penalty over to make it 7-3. But it's Munster then who apply the pressure despite having a man in the sin bin. They kick a penalty to the corner, pounding away at the Ulster line. Then Casey snipes over from close range again. Crowley converts for 14-3, and then they see out the rest of the yellow card period without conceding any points. Ulster then start to build a little bit of momentum. McCann with some really good carries. He was excellent at half for Ulster tonight. Billy Burns then hits a lovely crossfield kick to Stockdale. They basically sucked that defence in and made it a little bit narrow. Stockdale lets it bounce and gets lucky that it basically bounces right up into his bread basket. He goes over to score. Conversion is missed. It's 14-8, but Ulster starting to kind of find their feet in the game. Timney then with a late hit on Daly and goes beyond the horizontal as well. Munster kicked that penalty to the corner. They claim the line out, but then McCann gets in to disrupt, and Munster, they look to spread it, but Ulster force a knock on. Ulster then come on the counter. Some great work. There's a great offload in there from McCluskey. Then some nice hands, gets it out to Moore. He's going down the wing, tries to kick through, but it rebounds off a Munster player and into touch. Munster then, after the line out, managed to turn him over And basically what they did was they held somebody up in the tackle, turned it into a maul, and then that was pretty much the last big attack of the half. Halftime score 14-8, Munster leading. Into the second half then, Munster, they're holding onto the ball in the early minutes. They work it up to the edge of the Ulster 22. Coombs with a nice carry. But then a few phases later, Marcus Ray gets over the ball, wins a penalty for Ulster, and they're able to clear. Then Fineen Wycherley gets pinged for rolling into the 9. And it's, in very kickable territory for Ulster. So Doak strokes that over. And now it's 14-11. Ulster really are knocking on the door. Rob Herring then comes on to become Ulster's most capped player of all time on his 230th appearance. Ian Henderson, he's also on for Ulster, and he gives them some great momentum with 2 really good carries right up the middle. And the first one, he kind of barrels Barron, who gets his head on the wrong side, out of his way. And Barron, actually, that's the end of his game. Like, he kind of he had to be replaced then. And after that, the Munster line-out then kind of went to pot, really. They were doing pretty well, but Ulster started putting pressure on, and the fact that Barron wasn't there as well wasn't really helping them. But then from here, Ulster, they steal 2 lineouts on the bounce. As I said, the Munster lineout really did deteriorate. First one was round about halfway. Second one then was 5 metres from the Munster line. They then win a penalty for not rolling, and they kick this to the corner. Herring, though, with a dummy throw, and it's a big let-off for Munster. Thanks, Sean. It's a big let-off for Munster on that one. It looked like there was lots of movement in the Ulster line, and it felt like he wasn't sure what was happening with it, and he went to do the throw and then hesitated, and it was deemed a dummy throw, and it certainly was one. Ulster then, though, they win a scrum penalty. They go up the line. Munster finding it hard to get out of their own half at this stage, and Ulster kind of sensing there's a score coming from them, but then they knock as they recycle it 10 metres out from the line. Then we have a great carry from Scott Wilson, and his opposite number, Stephen Archer, gets pinged for coming offside. Doak squares the game up from the tee, 14-all. We then have a fantastic run from Stuart Moore in the middle, and then a grubber out wide comes off a Munster hand, and it's a great chance for Ulster from a 5 metre line out. Decent run for Stuart Moore. A bit earlier in the half, he got absolutely cut in half by Nash with just a tackle. Nash saw him like from about 10 metres out and just absolutely levelled him. But then Moore hitting back there with some really good play. Munster then get up to disrupt, but they actually, they win the line out but knock it on. Ulster then drive through the Munster scrum. They've got penalty advantage. They're about maybe 5 metres out from the line. Nick Timoney gets over to score. They don't need that penalty. Doak converts it for 21-14. Ulster hit the lead. Ulster then get warned not to play the ball at a breakdown, and it's just inside their own half. And Stuart McCluskey straight away plays the ball. Sometimes you just can't help it, I guess. But Munster then kick that penalty to the corner. They win another penalty as McCann goes over the top of a ruck. Back to the corner, Munster go. Ulster halt the maul as Munster try and drive, and then their defence forces a knock on as well. Ulster's defence, I thought, was excellent tonight, just keeping that line across the field and not letting Munster edge their way close to the line. Munster, though, they do keep the ball in hand from here, and they come again. They have a good tackle from Balakoon as They look to find space out wide. Munster, they continue to press. Ulster then get a warning from referee Frank Murphy about the number of penalties they're conceding close to their own line. Feels like there could be, a yellow card coming if they keep infringing. Munster then decide to tap a 5 metre, penalty 5 metres out, and they're making ground. They manage to drive over, but then Henderson gets in under the ball, and with a little bit of help from Herring and a few others, they manage to hold them up. Real try saver there. Drop out to Ulster. Clock then is in the red. Munster, they look to come, run it from their about halfway, just inside their own half actually. They work it back into the 22. Herring though, it then gets over the ball to win the penalty, and it also wins the game for Ulster. Full time is 21-14. Let's have a quick look at some of the stats. So on attack, 2 tries each. Quick early double from Casey for Munster, and then the Stockdale and the Timoney tries for Ulster. The Timoney try was basically the difference between the teams in the end. Possession then 47% for Ulster, 53% for Munster. Clean breaks 9 for Ulster, 1 for Munster. As I said, the Ulster defence really was good. Ulster making breaks, but I felt like that one thing that thanks again, phone. Shut up. Once again, though, something with the Ulster attack is they make the breaks, but you very rarely see anyone, taking the chance and going in support, kind of doing. We see the likes of DuPont do it really well, where they run ahead of a potential break, so they know they're going to be there on the shoulder for potential offload. But Ulster weren't really able to do that. A lot of the breaks were just one player to go on their own, and then the players who were coming in support were there to clean out on the ruck and recycle the ball, but not really a chance, to pop an offload or something like that. And then defenders beating 17 for Ulster, 14 for Munster. Offloads 5-4. So Ulster winning that, and probably the pick of the offloads was that Stuart McCluskey one, when Ulster were looking to break down the left wing. On defence then, territory 39% for Ulster, 61% for Munster. Munster really did apply a lot of pressure throughout the game, but Ulster's defence really was up to the task today. Number of tackles, 101 for Ulster, 112 for Munster. Missed tackles, 14 for Ulster, 17 for Munster. Tackle success, both really good. 88% for Ulster is excellent, and 87% for Munster is pretty good as well. Turnovers 1, 6 for Ulster. Felt like McCann, he didn't win them all, but it felt like he won them all. Munster with 7, and it's kind of weird because it felt like Ulster were the ones winning the crucial turnovers, but on the stat, Munster actually won more. Kicking then, kicks retained, 5 for Ulster, none for Munster, and Rob Balakoon was excellent in that area, getting up there and just kind of tapping kicks back or just claiming them himself. Kicking success, again, it's a nothing stat. I don't know why it's on there. It's always 0-0. And then last thing then, penalties, 11 conceded by Ulster, 12 by Munster. It went back and forth, especially in the scrum. Ulster really had, were struggling in the scrum in the first half, and in the second half, when the front rows changed, it completely turned around for them, and they were on top there. And the same with the lineouts as well, where Munster were on top in the lineout before the changes, before Barron went off especially, and then it flipped around again, and then Ulster were getting on top there, getting up and disrupting as well. But neither team really had their own way in the lineout for much of the game. Both very competitive on the opposition's throw, and all 4 hookers that played were under a lot of pressure as well when they're throwing in. But in terms of, overall, Ulster, I thought their bench had a huge impact on the outcome of this game. The likes of Herring coming on, but especially Ian Henderson had, massive impact. Cooney came on. He had some impact as well, but thought Doak had an excellent game. He's been playing so well for them, and it was nice to see as well. Billy Burns had a great game for Ulster in 10, but then the fact that they brought on Flannery as well, and trusted him to kind of see the game out, because he's had a great start to the season for them. For Munster, it just felt like they were a little bit off where we've seen them in other games. Like the attack, although they were making ground and stuff, they weren't really finding the space. They were just kind of making their way forward all the time, but never really breaking the line, and that was part of the problem for them. I thought a few players in the first half, the likes of Dogbo and Kendallin and Hodnett as well, they were pretty prominent for them, and then kind of faded in that second half as Ulster he kind of took control of things. Casey was excellent. I thought Crowley had a good game as well. Nankinbill and Frisch looked good in the centres, but without really kind of excelling. Nash, not as dangerous as we've seen him either the rest of the season. So, I think all in all, fair result in this one. Ulster were good value for their win.